Chapter 4. Ordinary Mystery. Tomás takes nearly 3 hours to get home. During the entire trek, the beaten-up boy doesn't run into a single soul. The town isn't big, but even in the early morning hours, it's normal to see people staggering around. However, that doesn't happen. Not that they've vanished, but none of them get close enough to be noticed. As for the boy, exhausted, he doesn't seek help, since he wouldn't know how to explain his condition. So it's better not to talk to strangers and avoid unnecessary trouble. The sun is just about to rise when Tomás quietly enters the house, which isn't difficult. The door isn't locked, and he naturally isn't a noisy person. Still, the lack of concern from his parents is, at the very least, bizarre. At this point, Tom doesn't stop to reflect on it, but later, he definitely will. There are no parents in the world who would ignore their child's unexplained absence. The normal thing would be for them to be out, searching, hearts full of agony. Or at least waiting in the living room, ready for a scolding. In neither of the two blackouts did that happen. Curious? Very? Coincidence? Of course not. The first thing he does upon entering his bedroom, which is exactly how he left it, is go to the bathroom to take a shower. Once again, he stands in front of the mirror, dumbfounded by his miserable condition. Saying he got beat up would be an understatement. Tom looked like he had been put through a demonic washing machine on spin cycle for at least 3 rounds. His whole body is covered in bruises, not just his left arm. In addition to several cuts, the deepest one is on his right arm, although these injuries are already somewhat healed, as if they had been treated days ago. His clothes are only fit for the trash. None of them are wearable again. For some reason, while looking at himself in the mirror trying to understand how he ended up like this, he gets a strange feeling that he's not alone. But the moment he steps into the shower, that feeling vanishes as suddenly as it came. After a long time under the water, he finally gets out feeling better. He gets dressed and heads to the kitchen for breakfast. "Hey, long sleeves today," his mother says, completely unconcerned, as she sees Tom sitting at the table. "Yeah, I woke up feeling a little cold. Cold in his spine, maybe. Truth is, he just wanted to hide all his bruises." Now a little calmer, he starts to question how unfazed his family seems by the whole situation. "Don't you feel hot? Might be a fever. Let me see." She gets closer and puts her hand on his forehead. "You're not hot?" "Mom, I don't have a fever. I just woke up cold," he replies, brushing her hand away, but only after she's already confirmed his temperature. "Maybe you're coming down with something. Take care of yourself today." He nods reluctantly. "What got into you yesterday and today, waking up so early?" She returns to preparing breakfast. It's still very early and she hasn't finished her routine yet. "I just didn't sleep well. Nothing serious." To be fair, that part is entirely true. Tom hasn't slept in the last 2 days, or at least he doesn't remember doing so. Does passing out count as rest? "It's all that Mandy's fault. What a silly girl," his mom teases, though it comes from genuine concern. "Ugh, Mom, no, nothing to do with her." He doesn't tolerate teasing from friends, but when it comes from his mother, it's even worse. "I just didn't sleep well." "Well, you might not think it's related, but your heart," she points to his chest, "doesn't think that way." Tom rolls his eyes. That's enough. He stands up from the table, grabs a piece of fruit from the basket, and heads toward the door. Before leaving the kitchen, he asks, "What was for dinner last night? What did you guys do? You don't remember what you ate yesterday? Are you sure you're okay?" Tom does his best to hide his shock. To his mom, it's as if he hadn't been gone all night. But now's not the time to worry about that. If she didn't notice, better that way. "I'm heading out early today. Bye." He walks out the door and all she manages to say before he's gone is, "Take care." There's still about an hour left before people start leaving their homes for school. Thankfully, the building should already be open, and he'll be able to relax in the courtyard before classes start. However, he's worried about his friends. What if they don't show up today? It's true that Tom made it back from whatever happened, but there's no way to be sure the same happened with Suzy and Rafa. The fact that his mom didn't notice anything brings some relief. It's not foolish to think the same thing might be happening with their parents. Tom hopes they're okay. He just needs to wait a bit longer to be sure. Or he could just grab his phone, which he actually brought today, and call them. But that idea never even crosses his mind, given his apathy toward mobile phones. Another concern, after convincing himself that his friends are safe, is his backpack. He can't go to class without it, and he has no explanation for how he lost it. Yoda wouldn't have eaten that much. Gradually, the school becomes more active. Teachers arrive cheerfully, most of them at least, as do the other staff members. The janitor is the only one who was already there when Tom arrived, cleaning the entrance to the main building. The students slowly bring the place to life. Suzy arrives a little earlier than usual. She's pale. Her face, normally flushed and cheerful, looks drained from whatever happened yesterday. Completely blank. When she sees Tom sitting in the courtyard, a bit of colour returns to her lips. She runs to him, eyes locked on his face. "Tom, oh my God, I'm so glad you're okay. What the hell was that?" Her voice trembles, a mix of fear and relief. She just doesn't know in what proportion. How should I know? He's happy she's there, and whole. Possibly nothing happened to Rafa either, he thinks. I couldn't sleep properly. That creepy street, then that crash, and you acting all weird. She paces, hands on her head, not realizing Tom doesn't understand a thing. He obviously remembers the street, but what crash? Acting weird? There's more to this than he thought. What do you mean? I just remember being with you guys until I sat on that couch. Didn't hear any crash. And I wasn't acting weird, I was just like you two. Suzy looks at him confused. As she's about to say something, Tom gets hit in the stomach by his backpack, which came flying from behind her. Ouch! He almost falls from where he's sitting. Of course, the backpack alone wouldn't hurt, but he's still all banged up. Maybe the pain would have been worse if he hadn't already noticed Rafa approaching. Just like Suzy, Rafa doesn't seem himself. He's shaken, but tries to keep a smile on his face. Dude, yesterday was insane. What the hell was that? Rafa sits beside Tom and greets him with a playful punch to the arm. Before Tom can say anything, Suzy cuts in. So, he's saying he doesn't remember anything after the noise we heard in that house? Tsukimoto gives Tom a skeptical look. Clearly something's wrong with his head. Mandy's fault. She takes the opportunity to bash Mandy just because she saw Tom's ex arrive at school. Otherwise, it wouldn't even have crossed her mind. Seriously. Rafa sounds genuinely surprised. That's really weird. I mean, not much happened, but you've got a lot to explain. Both of them stare at Tomás for a few seconds. He's the one dying to know what happened, but they say nothing. I don't know what happened there, but let me tell you what happened to me after we got separated. Both nod. Tom explains everything he saw from the moment he sat on the silver couch. That alone already sparks disagreement, because to his friends, the couch was a regular black leather one, completely different from what Tom had seen. Putting that aside, Tomás tells them he travelled through space until he found a strange golden palace, and just as he was about to explore it, he suddenly found himself trapped in the secret room of the old mall. Rafa and Suzy listen closely. Had they heard this story a few days ago, they probably would have laughed in his face. But things are a little different now. Really weird, man. Must have been a hallucination. You can't just go into space and not, I don't know, die. Rafa tries to apply logic to the fantastical, something that rarely works. I don't know, Tom replies, but now I want to hear from you two. What happened? He shifts his weight on the bench to get comfortable, but it doesn't help much. Everything still hurts. Well, Suzy begins. Right after you sat on that couch, you kind of went into zombie mode, like just staring off, hugging your arms real tight, you know. She gestures to imitate him, and does it very well, by the way. She'd probably be great at charades. Exactly, Rafa adds. I even shook you a little, and nothing. But then we started hearing something in the backyard, trying to break in. He turns more serious. Yeah, I couldn't see what it was, but it roared like a lion or something. It sounded like it was going to bring the house down. Suzy still looks shaken by the memory. Just thinking about it makes her uneasy. But for some reason, it's starting to feel more like a dream. That's it. It has to be some kind of shared dream. And then? Tom asks, still not understanding how they got out of that situation. That's what I wanted to ask you, you idiot. What do you mean, and then? Rafa snaps. I swear that thing broke through the door, and you just stood up from the couch, chucked your backpack at me, and boom! Next thing I know, I'm home at night. Like Vash! He gestures like he's travelling through a wormhole. Same here, says Suzy. The moment the door fell, you threw your backpack at him, and then I was just home, like nothing happened. My parents didn't even question where I'd been. My parents didn't say anything either. I don't think that's a coincidence. Before they can finish the conversation, the bell rings for class, and the three agree to meet again at recess to keep planning. During their entire conversation, none of them notice they're being watched. This time, it's not some mysterious force, but Mandy, who keeps them in her line of sight among the swarm of mourning followers constantly buzzing around her. For some absurd reason, they think they might have a shot with her. After all, if Tom, just some average guy, had managed it, then maybe they could too. Of course, she knows this. It's not the first time she's been surrounded by desperate boys and girls hoping for a chance or some favour, but Mandy couldn't care less. On the contrary, she uses them shamelessly. The cold-eyed brunette won't admit to herself that she's irritated by how unaffected Tomás seems after the breakup. It hurts her pride to see him not miserable. Isn't she good enough to leave him devastated? And the more she thinks about it, the angrier she gets. And who suffers from this frustration? Her loyal subjects, burdened with increasingly impossible tasks. When the bell rings, Mandy wishes they would carry her to class like an oriental princess. But even the school queen has limits, and some sense of dignity. Not to mention that without proper equipment, one of them might try to cop a feel on her butt, and that's unacceptable. So, full of her trademark laziness, she drags herself to class, surrounded by empty compliments that, at the very least, give her a bit of comfort. Classes go on as usual. During the first 2 periods, Mandy shares a classroom with Tom and Rafa. Of course, officially she doesn't even acknowledge this. But she's already decided that this is the perfect opportunity to make her ex realise what he's lost. Honestly, it's the best thing that's happened at school in days. Naturally, she hasn't come up with any plan. Asking that much effort would be insane. Her mere presence should be enough for Tom to come crawling back. And under normal circumstances, maybe it would be. Actually, definitely. See, Mandy, despite her constant laziness, is truly stunning, unmatched by anyone at school. No science on earth can explain how someone so allergic to physical activity has a gym-perfect body without lifting a single weight. But that's reality. Mandy, who hit puberty a while ago, is dazzling. And she knows it, which makes it even more frustrating because Tom doesn't seem to notice anymore. Today, she strategically chooses a seat that gives him the perfect view of her. That's the most effort she's willing to make. Sadly for her, Tomás is miles away, literally lost in space. During class, Tom keeps going over all his memories, searching for clues about what happened. To him, the vision of the Golden Palace was just a hallucination. The moment he sat on that couch, some kind of trance must have started. That's the only explanation, because his body acted on its own, like his friends said. Somehow he must have fought the creature. That's the only thing that explains all the bruises. If it weren't that, he would have woken up sore again like the first time he blacked out. Tom also suspects that the creature that attacked him was the same thing he thought he saw just before they jumped the hedge. It's his only clue, and the most obvious one. Recess is almost here, just a few more minutes until the three of them meet again in the courtyard. Tom is exhausted. His body has finally caught up with everything that happened, and it's barely functioning from the lack of sleep and proper food. When the bell rings, the class quickly empties. Despite being so tired, Tomás follows Rafa with the same energy as his friend. Suzy is already at their usual table waiting for them. "So what are we doing after school?" Suzy asks as the two arrive. None of them bother to speak in a low voice or hide the topic. What they're discussing is so ridiculous it could easily be mistaken for some RPG plot or just a dumb joke. "I only have one idea. Go back to the mall and check out that room," Tom says. He knows there's nothing else they can do. Every time something happened, they didn't have any control, only the consequences. "Yeah," Rafa begins, thinking of how they can get there quickly. "But I don't want to walk. Besides being far, what if we get trapped again in that weird neighborhood?" "Yeah, I don't want to walk either. That'd be awful and slow." Suzy sighs. She wore a small heel today. There's no way that'll work for long-distance walking. "I think I can ask my sister. Maybe she'll help, but who knows? If we don't give her a reason to take us to an abandoned place, she might think it's weird." Tom has a good relationship with his older sister, at least when they actually see each other. Even if she constantly teases him, he knows it's never mean-spirited. "I'd love to see Tazinha again," Suzy says with a big grin. "She'll kill you if she hears that." Tiana, or Tazinha, as Suzy just called her, is tiny. So small that Tom has sometimes wondered if she's secretly a dwarf. Unlike him, she's anything but average. Always top of her class, skilled at pretty much anything she takes the time to learn, and frankly, stunning despite her height. "Send her a message then. If she says no, we'll figure something else out," Rafa says, heading off to grab food. The upside of almost never using your phone is that when you do send someone a message, they assume it's important. That's exactly what Tiana thinks when she gets her brother's strange request. Take the three of them to an abandoned building. If Tom weren't such a dork, she might suspect something kinky with the Japanese girl. But she knows he's not like that. Tiana has always been curious. That curiosity is what makes her so smart. She's driven by the need to know how things work. So being interested in her brother's pathetic life is totally in character. Tom breathes a sigh of relief when his sister agrees to help. That relief lasts about 2 seconds, because Tiana says she'll only drive them if she gets to be part of whatever they're doing. Throughout recess, Mandy makes sure to stay away from the main courtyard, because that's where Tom and his friends usually hang out. Why does she stay near the sports courts? To watch the boys, obviously. That's so obvious it's hardly worth mentioning. That's her excuse for sitting at a wide table with a clear view of the multi-sport courts. Many of her followers join her, eager to bask in her presence during the break. But as soon as April shows up, they all scatter with some excuse or another, leaving Mandy alone with her newly arrived cousin. April is a sweet, kind, and quiet girl. She rarely talks in class, completely focused on her studies. She thinks she struggles to learn, so she puts in extra effort. Maybe that was true years ago, but now it's just habit. What's important here is that Mandy and April are cousins. They've known each other forever and have a deep, if peculiar, friendship. April is probably one of the few people Mandy genuinely respects, maybe the only one outside her close family. Still, at school, they hardly ever talk in person. They spend the entire day texting instead. That's probably the one thing Mandy actually puts effort into. "Hey, April, everything okay? You need something?" Mandy looks up, surprised to see her cousin. Her bangs hang over her round glasses, making it hard to see her small eyes. "No, I just wanted to talk to you." April sits beside her. "But we text all day." Mandy smiles and runs her hand through April's curly hair. As expected, her fingers get caught in the knots. She knew they would, but she always does this just to bug her cousin. "Stop it!" April swats her hand away before she can yank any strands. "It's just that some things are better said face to face. It's more fun." "What do you mean?" Mandy asks, curious. "What's your deal with Tom? I thought that was ancient history. I don't even know how it lasted that long." "You're crazy, it's over. I don't have any issues with him," she replies with disdain. "Oh, really?" April raises an eyebrow. "I saw you this morning, totally pissed at him. And yesterday, too." Despite hardly talking at school, April is extremely observant, even from the sidelines. I don't know what you're talking about. Mandy blushes slightly without realizing it. Tea wasn't even that big of a deal. It was just nice to be with someone, test the waters, set the bar. Uh-huh. That's what you say, but it doesn't look like it. So tell me, what's really got you mad at him? April knows Mandy's expressions too well to fall for that nonsense, even if some of it is true. Ugh, you're worse than my mom. You don't let anything go. April grins. Her smile is probably the widest in the school, even with her small mouth. You really want to know? Of course. That's why I'm here. It bugs me that he's not sad. Her voice turns quieter. You know? Oh. So that's it. April looks a bit disappointed by the answer. She was hoping for something juicier. I know it's dumb, but still it's annoying. Mandy sighs, looking up at the cloudless blue sky. I guess if he looked a little sad, I'd feel better. Not because I want him to be miserable. She quickly backtracks, realizing how that might sound. But just to know I meant something, you know? Right. Like, how dare he live and be happy without you? April teases her, pulling her into a hug. Mandy tries to slap her cousin's head, but April knows that move well and dodges it with ease. Dummy, Mandy mutters, smiling. But seriously, it's weird. He looked so happy, like he didn't care at all. Was it all fake? I get it. But don't dwell on it. It's not like you weren't amazing. You totally were. He's probably just good at moving on. Or forgetting. Maybe. April grabs Mandy's arm and pulls her up. The two of them head toward the cafeteria. Without her followers to bring her food, Mandy is definitely going to get hungry. Arm in arm, without a care in the world, they stroll through the courtyard. As they near the center courtyard, the first person they spot is Tomás, looking totally miserable as he stares at his phone. Both girls know how rare that is. Tom using his phone? That's new. So it's only natural they both keep watching. Tom rejoins his friends and tells them his sister will take them to the old mall on the south side of town. April had no idea Tom even had a sister, and that's what grabs her attention. Mandy, on the other hand, did know about Tiana, so what struck her was the idea of the three of them going to that rundown, abandoned mall. Did you know he had a sister? April asks, noticing her cousin had caught that same bit of the conversation. Yeah, I never met her, but I've heard she's super tiny, Mandy replies, only half paying attention. The bell rings and everyone starts heading back to class. Tom now faces one of the subjects he finds most useless, geography. He's never been one for travel. Always believed everything he needs is right nearby, and anything that isn't can be ordered online. Maybe someday that'll really be true, when virtual reality and augmented reality let you live any experience through a screen. But we're not there yet, and Tom hasn't realized just how limiting that mindset is. He sits next to Rafa like always and tries to get comfortable, but his aching body makes that nearly impossible. There's no explaining how he ended up so beat up. It must have been some kind of wrestling match with a giant snake that squeezed every muscle before it lost. Tom likes to think he won. After all, he's here, and the snake isn't. Class takes longer than usual to get going. Tom fights to stay awake. Something in the rhythm of the teacher's voice must trigger some hypnotic effect. He finishes copying the notes and finally loses the battle with his eyelids. The bell signaling the end of the period wakes him. The teacher doesn't seem to mind. Maybe she's used to kids dozing off in her class. Or maybe she just didn't notice. Tom sits in the back row after all. Rafa gives him a nudge and teases him for nodding off. Usually Tom would fire back, but not this time. The exhaustion is too real. As he closes his notebook to get ready for the next class, he notices something odd. His hand is still holding the pen, as if frozen mid-sentence. He reads the line, confused, since he can't remember what the teacher was saying. What he sees doesn't make much sense. It starts with something normal about the difficulty of measuring coastal boundaries, and ends with the strange, disconnected phrase, "I'll find you in your D." It's his handwriting, no doubt about that. Maybe he misread the teacher and, half asleep, just wrote nonsense, but it still doesn't add up. Tom stares at the open notebook for a while. Just another absurd thing to add to the growing list of absurdities. No point stressing about it now. There's nothing he can do. And besides, he's completely drained. If he had the option to go straight home, he would. But investigating what's happening is more important. He's sure they won't find anything at the mall. And soon enough, he'll be back in his comfy bed. The rest of the classes go by with nothing worth noting. Tom's brain has checked out, just an empty body sitting in a desk. When the final bell rings, he wakes up a bit. He and Rafa head to the front of the school to meet Suzy and wait for Tiana. The Japa girl doesn't take long to show up. 10 minutes go by and the three of them are nearly alone out front. It's amazing how fast kids clear out of this place. Sure, some wait for family to pick them up. But in this school, that's rare. Most either live nearby and walk, or use the school's shuttle. And so the three wait.